The phone rang a little past midnight. My father had passed, a massive stroke. I took 3 days off. Not requested. Not begged for. Just formally submitted, logged, and greenlit by HR. I didn't look for sympathy. I didn't ask for favors. I followed protocol. Then I buried him. When I returned, my employee badge wouldn't open the door. Security handed me an envelope, sealed, impersonal. A follow-up email arrived minutes later. One sentence. We need team members who put work first. The signature at the bottom? Melissa. My wife. My boss. One and the same. I didn't respond. I gathered my things, a coffee mug, a photo in a metal frame, the USB drive I always kept close like a digital talisman. No shouting. No tears. No drama. Just quiet finality. That was the last day I raised my voice in any meeting. The last time I led a sprint or owned a roadmap. Melissa and I built that company from nothing, starting at her kitchen counter, scaling it to a regional hub with over 140 employees. She managed operations. I engineered the product. She smiled for the press. I wrote the code that made the whole system work. Countless late nights spent shoulder to shoulder. We laughed through the exhaustion. Fantasized about being acquired. When we landed our first big investment, we tied the knot. She called us co-founders in love. I believed her. Now? I see the cracks had been forming long before the collapse. Her frostiness in meetings. Her assistant knowing about our arguments before we even had them. The way she dodged conversations about equity, even though I built the company's backbone from scratch. We'll revisit it when the time's right, she'd always say, without ever meeting my eyes. Then, the day after my father's funeral, I saw the posting. Chief Technology Officer wanted, must possess vision, loyalty, and unwavering dedication. It went live 48 hours after he died. The same time she emailed me. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. She didn't just fire me, she replaced me. A premeditated, bloodless coup. While I laid my father to rest, she buried my career, in the company we had built together. That's when mourning turned to strategy. I didn't lash out. Revenge in the moment would have been gratifying, but short-sighted. She needed to think she'd won. I let her. I gave her room to breathe. In the meantime, I set up a new office, a small rental under the name of a shell corporation. No connections. No paper trail. I started freelancing in silence, building something new, faster, sleeker, infused with AI capabilities. I named it all, like the ancient coin placed over the eyes of the dead, a payment to cross into the afterlife. Quietly, I hired a forensic accountant. Paid in cash. Not to sue. Not yet. I just wanted to see where the skeletons were buried. And Melissa had many. She'd funneled money into offshore accounts, signed checks to fake vendors, even forged signatures on critical documents. Including mine. One exposure of that would shatter her whole foundation. But I wasn't here to detonate her world. Not immediately. I launched all under the radar, business to business only. Nimble, powerful, elegant. Then I reached out to her largest client, under a different name, through different channels. I offered them a better platform for half the cost. She didn't even realize they'd left her until the quarterly report dropped. Then I poached another client. And another. Then 4 more. Her investors got nervous. She pointed fingers at her new CTO. He resigned within 2 weeks. Meanwhile, I sent anonymous tips to the regional director, just enough to trigger a compliance investigation. Never traced to me. Just a concerned former partner. The stress cracked her. I heard whispers from former colleagues. She'd been screaming in meetings. Drinking at her desk. Accusing everyone around her of betrayal. I stayed silent. I waited. Then, one Thursday morning, she called. "Hi, it's Melissa. Can we talk?" That sugary tone she reserved for boardrooms. I didn't pick up. 2 hours later, the regional director called. "Mr. Kale, we've got a problem. Melissa's disappeared. We need someone who understands the system from the ground up." Funny thing, when she fired me, she never changed the encryption keys. She never truly understood the system's architecture, only I did. Despite her title, her control relied more on me than she ever acknowledged. When they called, I responded evenly. I'm open to it, but I don't volunteer my expertise anymore. The meeting took place in the boardroom I had helped design from the ground up. She arrived late. Sunglasses on, masking whatever storm she'd been through. When she said my name, her voice cracked, brittle and uncertain. I didn't return her gaze. Instead, I opened my laptop and projected the data, logs, transactions, forged documents, all laid out with unshakable clarity. Fraudulent vendors. Tampered contracts. My forged signature on legally binding agreements. The regional director paled. The legal chief silently jotted notes, eyes unflinching. Melissa tried to interject. I spoke over her. I have evidence. Backups. Time-stamped records. Screenshots. All verifiable. All transferable. I slid a flash drive across the polished table. You have two options, pursue legal action or accept her resignation. Either way, I want full ownership of the intellectual property I created. I want retroactive equity. And I want her shares reassigned to me. Melissa's hands quivered. You can't do this. That's when I looked at her for the first time. You already did. By dusk, it was finished. She exited through a side door with 2 security guards flanking her. No send-off. No words. Just a quiet, definitive end. I stayed behind. Reviewed the paperwork. Signed it all. Then I sat down. Same chair, new plaque. Chief Executive Officer. All became the parent company. I took everything under its banner. Rebuilt the internal structure. Rewrote the culture. Paid fair wages to those she'd exploited. And I deleted the job listing for a new CTO. I never needed a replacement. I was always the foundation. People sometimes ask if I feel remorse. I buried my father while she buried me. She mistook betrayal for leverage. She forgot that stillness isn't surrender, it's strategy. So no, I don't carry guilt. I carry justice. And each morning, as I walk through those doors, I don't feel bitterness. I feel clarity. I remember the precision. The resolve. And the 3 days it took to flip the entire story.